the I Ching and why it matters in human design. So before we even talk about profiles like 3-5 or 6-2, we have to talk about where the whole line language comes from. So human design is also built on the I Ching, which is an ancient wisdom, a system based on 64 hexagrams. A hexagram is simply a symbol made out of 6 stacked lines. Each of those lines is either a yang line, which is a solid and unbroken line, and a yin line, which is a broken line. So yes, it's binary and it's a code. When you stack 6 binary lines, you'll get 64 possible patterns, and that's the 64 hexagrams. And in human design, those become the 64 gates. So when you hear people say gate 29.3 or 23.6, that means the gate is the hexagram theme and the decimal is the line inside of that hexagram. And that's why the line matters. They change the style of how the gate expresses through you. So the hexagram structure like a house. The 6 lines are like the levels of a house, starting from the bottom and moving up. So the first line is the foundation, and the second line is the first window. Line 3 is the stairs. Line 4 is the second floor, and line 5 is the second floor window. Line 6 is the roof. And of course, this is a metaphor. But it's perfect because the lines are not just traits, they are different life strategies for you, different ways of learning, different ways of being, and different ways of relating to the world. So when someone says, I'm a 3-5, that means that their life learns through the stairs of experience and then expresses through the window of leadership and projection. So when you see a line inside your body graph, it means that this particular theme in your design expresses through this level of the house. So what it means to have a first line in your body graph. Well, let's go into the first line keywords here. Introspection, study, research, detail, looking inward, and yes, also insecurities and fear. In human design, the first line is called the Investigator. And the most important thing to understand about the first line is the first line needs a foundation. So a first line does not feel safe building a life on vibes. It needs structure and it needs facts. It needs something to stand on. So when you have first line energy in your body graph, meaning you have activations that are line 1, like something whatever dot 1, you will naturally want to understand the base of things. You will want to ask, what is this really? How does it work? What's underneath it? And what is the mechanism here? And that's why the first line people often become extremely competent. They don't just learn a little, they study until they can trust the ground that they're standing on. And that, in the house metaphor, is exactly what you will see. So line 1 isn't like decorating the living room. Line 1 is literally checking the foundation. So the gift of the first line energy becomes authority through study. And it's not authority like an ego, authority like I've checked it, I investigated it, and I know what I'm talking about. A healthy first line has a quiet strength because it's built from depth. It's also deeply self-aware, introspective. It looks inward and notices details that other people skip. And for teaching, well, first line energy is very powerful because it can explain things in a very grounded way. It doesn't just say, trust the process. No, a line 1 says, here's why this process works. When we talk about the shadow side of the first line, the shadow side is the fear and insecurity piece you slide. It mentions, right, the keywords because when you're built to need a foundation, life can feel unsafe when you don't have enough information. So the first line shadow can look like you are over researching, you're waiting until you know everything about the subject. You perhaps feel like you're not ready yet, doubting yourself even when you are actually fully prepared, or feeling exposed when someone asks you something and you don't know the answer perhaps. And here's the important part. That fear isn't a flaw, but it is the sign that your system is trying to protect your foundation. But when fear runs the show, it will delay your life. So the growth in learning this balance is build your foundation and still allow your life to move. And how you can spot first energies in real life is if you have first line activations in your chart, you might notice that you feel calmer when you've explained, when you've planned and prepared. And perhaps you will feel anxious when things are vague. Perhaps you want to know what you're stepping into before you do it. You're naturally drawn to learning systems very deeply. You may recheck things to feel safe. And perhaps you don't like being rushed into decisions without the data. And again, that doesn't mean that you can't be spontaneous, but it does mean that your nervous system relaxes when you have a strong foundation. And a simple way to work with your first line, if you have a first line in your body graph, if you want to work with that first line energy in a healthy way, here's the key for you. Give yourself permission to investigate, but don't make that investigation a prison. So that you can say, well, I'm going to study enough to feel grounded, and then I'm going to move when my strategy and authority says yes. Because human design isn't asking you to be certain in your mind, right? It's asking you to be correct in your decisions. And the first line becomes unstoppable when it combines both. So a solid foundation and correct timing. So the closing bridge here is when you hear first line, think foundation, investigation, depth, authority through study. And in that house metaphor, it's the part of you that makes sure that your life is built on something real.